Welcome to another presentation at the East Trade Winds, hosted by Bernie Fransgrote and Wayne Pratt. Our presenter is Jason Costain from Javloc.
In the UK now, you're more likely to be a victim of fraud than any other crime. And that's frightening when you think about the steps people take to secure their house or to lock up their valuables, or maybe not. If people are writing the PIN number on the back of their debit or credit card, that's the first place criminals look. The second place is they'll check your PIN number doesn't correspond with your date of birth, which is usually on the driver's license in your stolen wallet. So the best thing to do with card PINs is just have one PIN that you don't need to write down. So that's why I think the danger with passwords is they're made to be complicated, aren't they? And human beings are more likely to write them down. So writing down the passwords is not a great idea, but you have to have one secure password. And just make sure your email password and your online banking login are the two things that are unique. Everything else, pet food online, your supermarket shopping, I wouldn't say recycle passwords, but, they're less risky. The criminals want to access your email and they want to access your banking, and they can reset passwords using your email account. So just to give you a quick overview of fraud in the UK, but this is what's going on around the planet. It's exactly the same model. Just like I said, the UK reports this stuff quite clearly, so you can see some of the trends in the data I'll show you shortly. We're seeing a big spike in high volume, low value card scams at the moment. So some of you might be on Facebook will have seen, I guess, what you call microsites popping up. So, people selling online perfume, people selling online goods. You can click on the Facebook site and buy stuff from there directly. Unfortunately, Facebook's ID and KYC processes for business advertisers aren't very secure. As you can see here, in this advert I spotted, it was advertising Paul Smith goods, which is a designer label brand in the UK. Paul Smith's a very famous fashion designer. Doesn't sell anything for under probably £30, let alone £5, but there's the honeypot site. You click through to that, and then you were encouraged to buy goods and then make a payment. The key thing with this is, I was always taught pay by card. It's more secure than sending cash to people. But you can see the merchants that conned Facebook into allowing them to have a fake site here that impersonated Paul Smith actually also got themselves card payment acceptance capability. So criminals have been able to get the ability to take a card payment off someone. And you can see, so I went through this, I gave them the card details. It was only £12, my shopping basket. But the fact that they could actually accept a card payment was quite frightening, because the criminals have not only convinced Meta that they're a genuine outfit, it's called Paul Smith, but they've also convinced the bank to let them accept card payments as well. You can see I didn't have the payment on my account, so it declined. So that's just one thing to watch out for. Another one is, this is more social engineering, which is, you might have heard around scams. Another phrase is used in the US. They talk about pig butchering scams, but it's all social engineering of victims to either give away money or to go through a transaction that they would otherwise not make. And scams tend to be driven by either fear or greed. So people are afraid of losing out on a good deal, or they're afraid of maybe getting on the wrong side of the IRS or the tax man, or romantically want to get involved with someone, but those motivators are there. For me here, this was me again. I was in Malaysia. I was looking for tickets to go up the Petronas Towers. I Googled it. The top search result on Google was a fake website that impersonated the real Petronas Towers. I then went into the website to book my tickets, and there was the second sort of screen grab here to see it verified by Visa. This was me being asked to put in a passcode. Then basically that was actually being stolen from me to authenticate my card in a Google wallet. So I thought I was authenticating my card to buy tickets to go up the Petronas Towers. What was actually being doing, because it was a fake website, I was asked to sort of authenticate my transaction, which was to basically load my card, register my card with a Google wallet. And what happened, and I kind of figured out what was going on partway through. I knew there was no money in the accounts, but I put the PIN number in anyway, the one-time passcode. And next thing, there was a €450 transaction in a Turkish online merchant. So you can see how Google's earning ad revenue. The number one search result was a criminal site. I thought they were trying to get me to approve the ticket purchase I thought I was making, but actually they were stealing the one-time passcode to load my card details to a Google wallet. So just another example of how criminals are socially engineering victims to give away codes. Now, I was doing this in the back of a taxi, so I was quite busy. There was other things going on and a bit distracted, but I actually spotted it. But I carried on anyway just to see what would happen. And I could have lost 400 or 500 euros immediately and probably a lot more. So you see how the social engineering works here as well. But again, Google's earning ad revenue this time. It was Meta on the previous slide. And just, I guess, in terms of scams, this one's a text message that my folks got on WhatsApp. I was going on a business trip to South Africa at the start of September. And it's called the WhatsApp mum and dad scam. Some of you might have seen it. But what happened was I'd been in the air for 7 or 8 hours. I got to Dubai. Then I flew from there to South Africa, and somewhere along the way, my folks got my test like this. Now, it was my mum and dad share the same iCloud address. So my mum sometimes answered my dad's texts that they're 80. This is what happens. The criminal sent my mum a text saying, Dad, say my number. My mum says, thanks, love. The criminal say, can I ask a favour? You can see my mum saying, yes, of course, love, what do you need? And then the criminal say, please make a payment. And my mum said at that point, you've told me never to make payments, so I knew it was a scam. But what happened was my mum had actually saved the criminal number off the very first message at the top of the screen here into her address book. So it went from unknown WhatsApp message from an unknown number to a WhatsApp message flow from me. So my mum fell for the first stage of this scam. But you get one of these potentially from somebody who'd be posing as your son or daughter or friend, and it's always going to be asking for money. So the key thing is that this was really frightening for me because it was really in context. I was traveling. It was plausible that I might get a new phone number. So my mum was straight away thought, okay, this is probably Jason. So that's either really, really, really lucky that the scammers texted her on that particular day of the year, or they knew that I was traveling. And the worrying thing then is they knew I was traveling, but they also knew who my parents were. And what you've got to realize is criminals are very good at aggregating data. So they know that, my mum and dad, I've lived at their address for a few months before, or I was renovating a house recently. So in a criminal's database, which they have massive databases of all our data has been stolen. So names, addresses, date of birth, everything's been stolen, passwords even, in a lot of cases. They can say, okay, this guy's traveling because they could have compromised the travel agents, the cell towers, it's the telcos, my email account, anywhere to know I'm traveling. Then they can combine my phone number with all the stolen data to figure out who I know, and then they can send them a text message that impersonates me. That's the kind of future of scams. It's going to become far more targeted and far more plausible. Sometimes scammers are just really lucky. Could have been they were just really lucky, but I think on this occasion they were really targeted. And if you're sitting there thinking, yeah, all scam victims are idiots, they're not. I mean, a long time ago I thought, blimey, how could you fall for that? But actually, if your son is traveling out the country and you get a text message a few hours after he's just taken off and it says, hi mum, I've got a new phone number, that's quite plausible. And it happened just at the right time. So a lot of scams you find are just at the right time. And usually the victim's got some kind of personal crisis going on maybe as well. Maybe they're busy. My mum had just come out of hospital after being in an accident and emergency for 2 days. So that was the following day. I left the country. She got the text message. So, she's probably vulnerable physically as well. So, it's unfortunate, but scams can happen to anybody. And research by Visa has shown that you're more likely to fall for a scam the more confident you are that you won't fall for a scam. So it's worth being, figure that out. So it's worth being cautious, and don't assume scam victims are idiots and it can't happen to you, because it probably could. This busy slide, lots of numbers, but I just wanted to give you a kind of overview. These are UK's fraud losses. Unlike other countries, the UK Financial Conduct Authority or Payments Association collects fraud data from banks. So you can see in 2024, there was £722 million worth of unauthorised frauds. And this is criminals, say, using somebody's card or taking over the bank account because they know the pins and passwords. Authorised fraud is people sending money voluntarily to criminals. So obviously they don't send money voluntarily to criminals. They send money to a criminal because they think they're investing in cryptocurrency when they're not. Or they think they've got a virus on their computer that they need to sort out, and they've given away access to their computer to a criminal. Or they've met someone online and they're funding an emergency operation for somebody they've met online. Or they're buying a camp van that they've seen on eBay and they've not actually seen it physically, but they're sending the money anyway. So these scams, authorised push payment frauds, as they're known, have come along, and £450 million a year is being lost. So there's a 1.17 billion kind of fraud loss number out there. And there's actually £2.45 billion worth of attack behind this. So the banks do prevent a lot of stuff. But year on year, card not present fraud is growing 22%. So these low value frauds I've just shown you, so Facebook and Google ads particularly, are driving a lot of fraud. But you see the numbers are quite large here. One of the things I'm keen on is banks have given customers the ability to send life savings instantly from the comfort of their own homes to someone they've never met. We're all highly vulnerable, and nobody's really trained us what to watch out for. So I'd say everyone says to know what you like scam tips and what should you watch out for. Well, I've given you a few of the latest things to watch out for, but I guess the main thing is, and it saved my mum in that example before, which is if you find yourself making a payment that you weren't planning to make, then stop. Even if that's a routine payment that you were planning to make, it's worth being cautious as well. So just make the conversation in your own mind about money. And as soon as you're sending money, that's where you just need to stop and think, okay, when did this need to send money arise? And for some scam victims I spoke to before Christmas, for example, they texted me at 6 p.m. in the evening and said, Jason, how can I tell it's my bank calling? And I texted them back and said, I'll phone you back in a moment, I'm just on a call. But if somebody's contacted you asking you to send money, do not send money. And it won't be your bank who asks you to do that. Sure enough, they'd been contacted by scammers. By the time I spoke to them, they'd sent their third payment and they'd lost £100,000 that day. I helped them get it back. And the bank had actually, thankfully, stopped the third payment themselves. But some criminals had phoned them in the morning. They knew quite a bit about their bank account and their card details. And they were able to convince this elderly couple who were friends of mine that they needed to move their money to a safe account. But the key thing there is you don't really need to know all these different scam types. And there's lots of things on the internet that tell you about the latest scam, WhatsApp gold, investment scams and things. But they're all about moving money. So if you just make that conversation with your friends and family about when the money's being moved, just stop and think and do some basic checks. That's probably the best way of trying to get in the way of it. And if it's people vulnerable in your family, have a chat with them. Some basic things you might know, but for example, some banks are now starting to allow you to reduce your daily payment limits. So I work for one bank where every single customer could make a payment of up to £50,000 instantly. And we thought that was a good thing because everybody wants to make high value payments, don't they? Actually, it was a really bad thing because people who make high value payments are either high rollers or they're being scammed. And when we looked at it, only 2% of the bank's 17 million customers had made a payment more than £5,000 in the previous 5 years. So you don't need these very high payment limits. If you go into your online banking, you should find your bank will allow you to reduce your daily payment limit. And it might be once in 10 years when you move home, you might make a big transaction. That's the time to increase your limit and plan in advance. But actually, there's some controls on your online banking that should allow you to reduce your own exposure, which might get in your way and help you. And certainly something to do for your friends and family. So a friend of mine, his mum is 90. When I told them about these payment controls, he went into his 90-year-old mum's bank account and she had a daily payment limit of £100,000. So her bank, HSBC, thought it was a good idea to default a 90-year-old lady with a £100,000 daily payment limit. So the banks haven't really designed in some of the controls that they should, and they're now starting to. But even when they do, they don't necessarily tell the customers the controls are there. So the best thing I think you can do is limit the payment values you've got on your account, set up alerts so you can see when money's coming in and out. And if you ever find yourself making the payments that you weren't planning to and there's some sense of urgency, you've got to be really careful. And if you think you're going to invest in something, invest in firms that are well established, that you can verify rather than people you found on the internet. It's the Wild West out there. Now, again, a busy slide, but just put this on for a bit of fun. So these banks on the left are all banks in the UK. They're all competitors. The blue bar is the amount of payments that left the bank that were victims of fraud. So this is payments per million sent. So you can compare these banks. It's not about the size of the bank. It's about the amount of payments that left the bank as a proportion of payments overall. So you've got the blue line here for AIB, you see top left, something like £50 in every £1 million sent was an authorised push payment fraud. And the orange bar, you see Monzo here, they had over £200, the blue line, of payments out for every £1 million sent was a fraud. And the orange line is, another couple of £100 for every £1 million of payments received was the proceeds of a scam fraud. So you can see, the longer the line, the worse the bank is at stopping fraud. That's the blue one. And the longer the orange line is, the worse the bank is at spotting stolen proceeds of crime cash when it comes in. So you can see, I put this on here purely to show you just how different the performance is of banks. And it's vast. And this is the UK where we record and publish this stuff. The US, Canada, every other country will have this level of differential performance between banks. So who you bank with is quite important in terms of how safe you are from being scammed. You want to bank with a bank that's likely to stop you sending money to a scammer, and you want to bank with a bank that doesn't, that tends to spot money coming in from scams. So you can see NatWest Bank there, 2/3 the way down. I used to work for them. We were pretty advanced in terms of our scam controls. And as a result, one of the best banks in the country here for stopping scams going out and stopping money coming in. Some of the fintech banks like Monzo, Starling, and Revolut pride themselves on being, AI and very techy. They've actually got very weak financial crime controls in the background, haven't invested in it, and it's very manual from what I've seen. So I think I'll call it quits there on the slides.
Unlock the full potential of networking with East Trade Winds. Are you eager to connect with our esteemed guest speaker and delve deeper into the ever-expanding universe of connections? Simply scan the QR code now and embark on a journey of endless opportunities. Join us at East Trade Winds, where we gather online via Zoom every Tuesday from 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, you're welcome to connect with us. Seize the moment, register for free, and start exploring today. Fancy sharing your insights as a guest speaker? We're looking for you. Reach out to Wayne Pratt to ignite your speaking journey. Email him at wayne@motivateyou.ca or connect with Wayne on LinkedIn. Don't wait. Take action and be a part of a global community that's shaping the future of business networking.